Well, folks, thank you for joining us. This is our Kindle flash sale author panel. I'm your host, Jeremy Shapiro, and I'm excited to introduce you to our panel of authors today as we jump into really the behind the scenes look at what goes into putting a book out there, why we're doing this flash sale, and so much more. So with that being said, I'd love to jump in and introduce you to our author panel. I'd like to start with Jen. Jen, tell us who you are, what your book is, and who your ideal reader is for your book.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. My name is Jen Neitzel. I am the author of On the Move, the relationship-based five-point marketing solution for mobile business success. I need a nap every time I say that. I longest subtitle ever. I wrote this book for mobile business owners, the personal trainer, the mobile notary, the mobile mechanic, anybody who has to get in a car and drive themselves to their customer's location. It is a relationship based marketing plan that really gives some clarity on how to grow your know, like, and trust factor inside your community. So hyper locally.
Love it. And then in terms of your ideal reader, why did you write this book for them?
Because I couldn't find a plan that worked for me. I started a mobile notary business in 2017, and this plan organically just happened. And I did something a little different that I don't normally do as I was working my way through marketing and just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what would stick. I wrote down what worked, and from that emerged this plan. And it's really basically marketing 101, but it puts it in a conversational style, and it gives people the opportunity to see, okay, I don't need to be intimidated so much about getting out there and introducing my business. We talk a lot about fear,
Mm.
a lot about, managing your mindset and getting out of your own way.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Jen. And Lisa, tell us who you are, what your book is, who your ideal reader is, and why you wrote the book for them.
Awesome. Well, I'm Lisa MacDonald, and I'm a business coach for creative entrepreneurs and holistic practitioners. And I wrote the most common entrepreneur mistakes and how to avoid them. And what I did was I interviewed 50 different people in 50 different industries in '08, way back then, and of what they did to survive that crash that happened. And then when I was asked to write this, I went back and reviewed the principles of what was working and what had changed. And so with that, I was able to figure out there was one principle that had changed and the rest of them were still golden.
Nice. Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you joining us. And Joel, over to you. Tell us who you are, your book, who your ideal reader is, and why you wrote your book for them.
So I am Joel Benge, rhymes with Stonehenge. I'm a nerd that talks good. I'll spare you the villain origin story, but my background is creative. I ended up becoming a nerd and a practitioner, and then I ended up in branding and marketing. And so I wrote a book called "Be a Nerd That Talks Good," which is about transforming your technical knowledge into really powerful messaging. So it is a marketing book for the non-marketer. It's really for the nerds, for the people who are founders, technical practitioners, maybe product people who need to communicate. I spent a lot of time in marketing agencies, and I realized that we don't tend to service our clients that well. Sometimes it's like oh, we don't need to talk to the technical people, the people who built the stuff. Let's just Google what they do, or let's just make them look cool. And then you have that poor technical founder or that product person or that do a lot in cybersecurity. They're stuck holding the bag, and they can't really speak the way the brand talks. So I spent a lot of time in those trenches, and I wrote a book about it.
Love it. Love it. Great backstory on that, Joel. Thank you. And hi, guys. My name is Jeremy Shapiro. I'm the author of Your Business Growth Playbook, Breakthrough Strategies to Scale Your Business for Business Owners Who've Outgrown Hustle. For me, when I talk about ideal reader, this is actually something pretty well researched on my end. And it really came down to business owners who have a business. What got them to where they are now has stopped working. They're not able to scale or grow any further, and they've hit this revenue plateau. And so really this book is a culmination of 30 years of the strategies I've used in my businesses and strategies I've used with my clients to help them get unstuck and back to that growth they deserve. And it's meant to be a tactical, practical, hands-on playbook that you can flip into, find a strategy, implement it, use it, and then go back to again and again and again. It's the exact process I've used again for myself and with my clients, and it is meant to be a usable playbook for real versus just a book of theory. It's the actual practical stuff. So great. Well, thank you guys for joining us and being part of this panel. This flash sale is a pretty unique event in terms of things authors can do. And so I'd love to hear from each of you about why signing up for the Kindle flash sale, like how that fits within your broader marketing efforts. I know some of us have done this before, others it's the first time. So Jen, maybe we'll start with you and you can talk to us about what you're looking for from this and why you're most excited about being part of this.
Well, I am definitely the newbie. This is my first time doing it. It's been a little overwhelming, but really such a cool experience to be connected with so many different authors and learning about these different topics. And it just, I mean, having access to this kind of learning for 99 cents, I couldn't say no to that. I am using this flash sale to help me grow the sales of my book. I am actually already working on volume 2 of this book, making it a little more not technical, but just a little more, I think, entrepreneurial / business versus conversational the way it's written now. And I really want to get this book in the hands of as many people as possible that are mobile business owners, especially now with the economy the way it is, and so many people making the decision to start their own business.
Nice. Well, this seems like the perfect time, like you're saying, for not just you, but also your reader. So welcome to that flash sale. Love it.
Thank you.
Lisa, how about yourself? This is not your first time going through this, and you are now back doing another Kindle flash sale. So there's something there I'd love to hear about. What brought you back, and how does this fit into your bigger marketing efforts?
Yeah, and Jen, just so you know, that overwhelmed feeling doesn't ever go away. So every launch, it's like, okay, I actually, did a lot of my prep work before so I could have this week to focus, because when Robbie does things, he does it in intense.
I know.
One of the things I love about it is I love meeting the other authors, and they have so much information. And as a coach, I'm always looking for other resources that I can tap people into, and with the different books and the different information. So that is one of the best things I like doing, is just connecting with others and getting my hands on these books, because I love reading. So there's a lot of fun books, and there's a lot of fun people to meet. And the readers, I really enjoy the readers who are up and ready to do this. And some of these readers might want to write a book at some point, and I do help people do that. So, that's the other thing.
Nice. Well, you are certainly within a community of wonderful authors, and so that's very much the right spot for you, Lisa. Welcome back to the flash sale.
Oh, thank you.
Joel, this is your first time jumping in and joining us on the Kindle flash sale. Tell us more about what piqued your interest and what you're looking for from this, and how it fits into that broader marketing plan for you.
Well, it was actually your post, so depending on how this goes, I'll either thank you or blame you. You and I run in similar circles in some author communities, and I'd seen your posts, and I published my book just almost a year ago this June. And I did everything that I thought I needed to do, and the sales have been okay, but my reviews have been not so great. And as we know from marketing, it's a funnel. You start with this many, and you might get that many. So I see this as an opportunity really to get my book in the hands of people. Hopefully to turn more of those into reviews, because as we know as authors, you think, oh, I got the book, it's done, and I got the cover, and it's published, and it's on the platforms, and that last little bit is making the algorithms happy, and a big part of that is reviews. So and I'm already seeing a couple reviews trickling in. We're on like day 2, so it's been phenomenal. But I think the community, having Robbie there saying, hey, before you do this, use this as an opportunity to reach back out to people who are in your community who might have bought your book, and use that to nudge them and say, hey, did you review it yet? So I think it's the learnings. I'm a big fan of meeting people. My summer reading list is absolutely packed. I've already built it up. So that's the thing that I'm really the most excited about this.
Amazing, Joel. Well, all the things you're talking about, please do blame me for those. I'll absolutely take credit. Yeah, so for myself, it touches on many of the answers that you guys have shared. This is my second time back doing a Kindle flash sale. And I remember at our celebration party, after the last one was over, everyone sort of sharing highlights and all, and Robbie was asking some good questions around that. And I started just jotting some notes down, and I came on to share. I'm like, there's actually 7 big things that were really valuable for me from this flash sale that I didn't know about even jumping into it. We don't need to get into all those now, but just a few of the highlights for our listeners, as well as for our new folks in the Kindle flash sale. I was just amazed at what a wonderful community of authors there are. These are such giving, wonderful people who, before I even had a chance to meet them, some of them were getting my book and leaving a really helpful, wonderful review about it, right? People are creating really great graphics or introducing you to wonderful vendors, or, sharing great resources with you and so forth. And being surrounded by like-minded authors who have similar goals, right? Who are facing similar challenges and are there with that camaraderie is so wonderful and powerful. But biggest thing that really got me into it in the first place and has brought me back was, I remember when I was reading one of the many books I went through before publishing my book, there's a strategy from a marketing standpoint that was about, working with, we can think of it like referral partners, people who can put you in front of your ideal reader. And I remember sitting back and scratching my head and asking myself, like, how do I get in front of my ideal reader? Who else is working with my ideal reader? What other author is going to talk to their community and their people about me and my book? And then I came across the Kindle flash sale. And that was exactly that strategy of other authors picking out a few books that they highly recommend and sharing those out to their community. So suddenly you have like this entire army of folks out there happily and enthusiastically talking about you and your book and why their audience would find value from that. And so the sales we saw from that were phenomenal. And that was, I wasn't sure where to go on that, but hands down, it was one of the best, marketing initiatives we did last year. And here we are again. So I'm excited to be part of that. Awesome. So for our first time authors, I'd like to hear, how you moved past that like inner voice in your head and over all the obstacles and actually wrote your first book. For our seasoned authors, and Lisa, I'm looking at you here, how did this book differ from some of your earlier books in processes? And so maybe Lisa, why don't we kick this off with you? How did this book differ from your others in terms of your process?
Just so the audience knows, I think I have 37 books published now, so I get lost on my numbers. But how this one differed was I was approached on LinkedIn actually by this publishing house, and they wanted it to go into MBA programs, which I had never even thought about that, and they were connected with Harvard and all of that. So they approached me more because of my academic background, which most of my books are way more commercial. So that was one of the things. And I did write very friendly because I like to have my books and resources and information to be accessible to everyone. So that's one of the things I kicked back when they wanted me to have peer reviews. I'm like, no, I know what academics go through on peer reviews. Nope. And they're like, well, you have your colleagues read it. Sure, no problem. So that was part of, and I was like, they said that they knew that I wasn't an academic in that because I had the street cred. So that's one of the things I was looking at. And I was also looking at it as a business decision. Okay, how many clients would I need to accumulate to make this worth my effort? Because it is a lot of time away from working and coaching and marketing. And I was like, 3. I'm like, oh, okay, then this is no brainer because it will build it. And also it will help people who can't quite afford my fees yet. They will go and practice it and do that, and then we can and talk later. So I was helpful for that because I want to be more accessible with the information I have to help more people, because I believe in entrepreneurs, because that is our future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like what you touched on there, Lisa, about the book being accessible. One of the things I even talk about in my book, and I'm sure you've taught and worked with your clients on, is this idea of you can have the like done for you service, right? That higher end, right? You can have mid-tier, which is like the done with you, right? Working with folks, more coaching versus consulting. And then you can have the DIY version, the like, hey, look, go take this thing and do something. And a book often fits that entry level do-it-yourself space. And so it's great that you're able to keep a lot of your brilliance and wisdom accessible to a larger audience. And your book serves that really well. So love that.
Oh, thank you.
Joel, over to you. How did you move past that inner voice and actually get this book out into the world?
It's funny that you mentioned sort of the do-it-yourself, done with you, done for you ladder. So I'm about 3 years into this journey as a consultant. I started out as a brand and marketing strategist at agencies working on behalf of these really smart tech companies. And I had this mental model in my head of kind of this pyramid of content and messaging, and I ripped it off from Maslow, right? And this objective of like, moving from emotions through logic into credibility as a way of simplifying the marketing funnel. So I had these things in my head, and when I stepped out on my own, I created a card game that I use as the crux of the work that I do with my clients. And somebody said, you could sell those cards. You wouldn't have to do the big consulting. You could sell those cards. So I started working on a video script, a how to do it script. And I'm like 10 pages in, and I'm like, oh, I need to use this anecdote from when I was at my startup, and I need to do a little bit of background on Aristotle. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm writing a book. And so I just sort of word vomited all this stuff that I had been sitting on for years. To be honest, the drafting of the book came really easy, but I knew that I needed to work with a team to help work on it, to fact check it, to do a lot of work. And so I worked with an outside team to bring it over the finish line. But to me, and you don't need the cards, you don't need me to do the book, but to me, it just sort of shares the madness in my mind and the way I look at things, in hopes that it's going to help somebody else who's in that same place, which is like, I see everything. I just need a path to implement my messaging, to stop overburdening my audience or oversharing. And so that was the passion for me. And then I got the book out, like I said, just almost a year ago, coming up in this June, and it's been great because I feel that if someone's not ready to work with me, I'll say, hey, you know what? Just go check out the book. That will help you in spades. And then if you need some help, then I'm here. And so for me, it was I knew that was going to be a big jumping off point for me. And the next thing for me is some video courses and some merch and productizing the IP, which I think a lot of us kind of get at that. So again, it's a never ending cycle. But but just knowing that the book was going to be the thing that would let me stand firm, and once that thing is published, I mean, you better have your model. It better be tested and it better work, because you want that thing to be firm, and that was a real lever for me. So it didn't quiet the voices. But it reassured the voices in my head that I was doing the right thing. So
nice. Well, and clearly, Joel, it sounds like that's fitting in part of a larger picture as well. And like you said, having some of those pieces cemented, once that book ships and it's on bookshelves, unlike software or other things, we can't just go in and make a few quick changes and have it fixed. Like, it's got to be, to your point, solid and fit in there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've heard you guys touch on this a few different ways. And Jen, we'll jump over to you in just one second. This idea of like getting the copies out there with those ideal readers, this concept of like seeding your book, but like if it doesn't get a result, it can't be recommendable, it can't turn into a client. So you do need to have that book that's going to help someone to not just make it past the front cover, but read the book and actually implement it, get a result, recommend it to others, and so forth. And that gets that snowball going. And clearly, I think all of us here have found a way over that hump to do that. So. Jen, tell us more about your journey getting over that inner voice and getting the book shipped and out there to the world.
Well, I did think that was going to be the hardest part, and I think that's what we've all kind of echoed here. We thought getting the book out was going to be the hard piece, but I'm learning that there's so much after the fact. My book's been out since July of last year, so kind of like Joel, almost a year now, and it was a 5-year road. I was at the time I started writing the book, which was something I always wanted to do from the time I was very young, I was really looking for a way to share my experiences in my online community that I've developed. I'm a mobile notary, and I have a community of mobile notaries that I teach how to market hyper locally in their communities. And I was being a little too technical about it, I think, and I just kept running into that wall, that this isn't working for me. This isn't my voice. This is not my voice. And so I started looking into sharing some stories to make it a little more personable, add a little bit more of my personality into it. And when that happened, I actually had a really powerful moment, because I had a repressed memory come back from sitting down writing, during the afternoon one day. And it absolutely changed my life. It set me on a path to healing. And the book was part of that process, because it gave me an outlet for all the service things I wanted to accomplish, and all of the ways I wanted to help people market their business and grow their reputation, their know, like, and trust factor in their communities. And I, at the same time, am trying to go through this very personal, very heavy ordeal. But this book then became my outlet. It became a way for me to almost find my voice, even though I wasn't writing about any of those things. I was writing about my own experiences in developing a system, a framework for marketing a mobile business. So it was really such, I say that it was, at the time, it felt very overwhelming and a lot, but it was really such a pivotal moment going through that, because that book gave me the direction that I needed to get out of that space. So it's a very personal project for me as well.
I've heard many authors compare, getting their book out and referring to their book as like their baby, right? Like it's this book has been in gestation so long, and then like it finally gets out into the world. And then like, you got to raise your book too. So,
Yeah.
which we'll get to in a moment. Lisa, were you going to add something?
I just, as a book coach, that happens a lot.
Does it?
It happens a lot, because you're really changing and becoming a new person. And so you have to
Yeah.
up-level anything that has been blocking you to go to the next level.
Thank you for saying that, Lisa, because it really was a pivotal moment in my life. And I wasn't happy at the time it happened, but I am now.
Nice. Well, we don't know what's on the other side sometimes until we get there,
That's
and
right.
realize both what we've gone through and what's ahead. So, love that, Jen. Thank you for sharing, Lisa, for touching on it too. So for me, it's funny, this question about like, the inner voice and writing the book and getting it out there. Writing was probably the easiest part of the whole process. So I'm out here in Silicon Valley, and I think in a very Silicon Valley way, I put pen to paper on December 3rd. And I figured, in like 2 weeks, I'll click export PDF from my Google Doc, upload, and be good. I'm done. I'm a published author. And like in retrospect, could I have done that? Like, yes. Would it have been the book I have today? Absolutely not. So what I found is each step of the way, I take one step forward. I discover some new book or community or expert or someone in the world of book publishing, and realize there was like a really important thing I was missing if I was going to do this right. And one of my big core values is like, if you're going to do something, you do it right. And so I learned about, getting early beta feedback, and I should have beta readers. And so I got really involved in that. And I'm so glad I did. And then I found out about, getting reviews early. And I found out about, the importance of the right cover and the importance of the editorial reviews, and like all these things. And every time I learned something new to publish my book and do it right, it would push my publication date out by like a month or 2 months. And each time that happened, there was a little bit of frustration of like, man, I just want to ship this thing. But then I come across the other side of the chasm and look back and say, what was I thinking to even consider publishing a book without the thing I just did? And so that happened a number of times. And so it did finally, I had to put a line in the sand somewhere and say, no matter where this is, it has to get out there. And so, Joel, to your point, you touched on this earlier. I like this idea of like leverage, right? There's things we can do that we're as subject matter experts in and there are things that others are experts in. And so I too leverage the help of like professional cover designers and keyword researchers and the title iterations, going through hundreds of those and the research and surveying my ideal readers and having editors and all these other things, right? Like these experts who bring decades of experience and skill in a certain area that I shouldn't go and dabble in, where they can bring the expertise. And so to the point of the question, I found the writing part actually really easy and enjoyable. It was all the other things that was new, unfound territory for me, but I'm really glad I learned along the way.
Jeremy, I'm so glad you took the time to write a quality book. We don't need any more bad books out there.
Right?
And it's, and to go to the extra effort is commendable to make a very standard quality book, because it does take work to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, the word that came to mind, I realized during the pre-publication side of things, Lisa, and thank you for saying that, is I realized I'm not just publishing a book, because these days anybody can just publish a book. I was intentionally publishing. And that intentionality, I mean, I want to say easily 100x the time that was involved in putting the book out there. But I think, a million x the value in doing it. So thank you, Lisa. So one thing I love doing when I talk with clients or, even socially in life is having like a definition of success. It's funny. I have a good friend of ours. She has a nice lake house, and occasionally we go up there, different groups of friends and all, for a weekend. And she even socially will use this question beforehand and ask, like, how do you define success? Like, what would make for a great weekend away? And everyone has, different answers. But once you know what that is, we can make sure the boxes get checked, right? So one person says, oh, we want to play board games. Like, great, we'll make sure that happens. Oh, I love cooking a big meal with friends. We can do that. Oh, a dip in the lake. All right. And so you get your list. You know what success is. You can hit it. And then whatever else happens, success was met by your definition. And in business, this is so great to use as well. So in the context of books, I'm really curious, success metric wise, like how you define success before you published your book. Like what metrics were you looking, or what KPIs mattered? And also, like nuanced, I'm curious if that definition has changed post-publication. So Joel, why don't we start with you on how success is measured and if that's changed for you?
Yeah, absolutely, and it definitely has. So I would say, as a pre-author, as an aspiring author, I think most people think that your success metrics are going to be sales, and it's going to be revenue, right? And you very quickly get disabused of that, because of just understanding how the market works. And unless you're Mike Michalowicz or something like that, and you're really pulling in the huge, gigantic numbers, the success is, and yeah, the money is coming in for sales. That's great. But the real, I think for me, my measure of success is the recognition. It's the narrative shaping. It's people understanding what I do, as opposed to me having to sit and do a pitch and explain my process. They can very quickly understand, oh, Joel's the guy that can help you talk good, right? And so it's the exact same success that I try to position for my clients and my readers and the people that I work with, which is like, you don't want to be known for how you do something or the mechanics of what you do. You want to be known for the change. You want to be known for the transformation. And I'm now meeting people. I'm in the Baltimore, DC area, and I hang around in a lot of startup spaces. And I'm having a lot of people go, "Oh yeah, I've seen your book. You're that guy who helps nerds talk good," as opposed to Joel's the website guy, Joel's the marketing guy, Joel's the social media guy, right? So I really see it as framing, and that's the biggest success for me. And through that, I think the sales will come. So, that's not even a metric that I'm as worried about anymore.
Nice. It is funny how I think many people think the idea of publishing a book is that, you're going to make millions passively while you sleep from book royalties. So speaking of that, Lisa, tell us about your metrics of success for your books, your book empire, and how that's shifted over your journey as an author.
Well, with this particular book, each book is like a different baby. It has a very different journey and a very different definition for me. But with all my books, I want to birth what the book is wanting to become. So I kind of have this woo-woo sense that it's meant to become something. Now, at the end of this, doing the book, I have to say my measure of success was because it was going to be internationally going to be in MBA programs. I wanted everything that I claimed to be research with data and backup. And that was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be because they don't like to put money into entrepreneurship. So my success was, I don't know how many footnotes. Now I think it was 132. But the fact that I have 132 footnotes with really respectable research-based research to me was like, okay, I won. There was a ability to find that kind of information and make sure that I was backing up my claim.
Yeah, that goes back to, I think, that concept of like intentionally writing. It's easy to put something down, but to research it and find the backup to it, and provide that to your readers, because there are those readers of us, and I identify as one of those sometimes, that want to check the source and understand, what the backup is behind what you're saying.
Yeah, they wanted me to do more footnotes,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is not a very big book. And I did tell them that, okay, this is for the intro for MBAs. I would like them to go talk to the professors to go deeper. And they're like, oh, that is an excellent point. So I didn't have to do more footnotes.
Well done. The fact checking thing is funny. I'll share with you guys a quick funny story on this. So when I was researching my book, one of the tactics we were talking about goes back to the days of, if you remember Comet, the household cleaner, that like white powder stuff you shake on, right? Comet had this great story that like they're looking to sell more. And so someone had the idea of like, we'll just make the holes in the top bigger. So when you shake it out, like more powder comes out and then customers go through it more and you buy more. And I'm like, oh man. So I go looking into this and find Alka-Seltzer had a similar story of Alka-Seltzer had tapped out the whole market, and the ad company they were working with was sort of tasked with like increased sales and like, look, we own the entire total addressable market. We can't expand that. What more do you want us to do? And so one of the ad guys started looking into the research and was talking to a doctor and was like, well, look, this has like, this dosage of, I think, aspirin in it. Is there any problem if people take more? And they're like, no, like our studies show you can take twice as much. And they're like, okay, so we could just tell people to take 2 of these things? And the doctor was like, yeah. So they went back and like, all right, we know how to increase sales. We're going to tell people to take 2 of them instead of 1. And of course, they increased sales. They changed the packaging, and that whole story of like the plop, plop, fizz, fizz thing, that was the ad campaign based on this idea of, just double the dose, right? So that really changed things for the company. So anyways, for my podcast, I had this guest coming on, and we're going to be talking about his business and all. And so he comes on, and before we record, he's like, so Jeremy is like, I bought your book, and he holds up, he's got a copy of your business growth playbook in his hands. I'm like, cool. And he's like, and I read that story about Alka-Seltzer. I'm like, isn't that a great story? And he's like, yeah. So I worked for Bayer for like 35 years in their branding team. And I'm like, uh-huh. And he's like, and I read that story. And I'm like, right. And he's like, and that's total BS. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, so before our call, he's like, I went out to do my research and show you that was complete nonsense, and reached out to some of my colleagues from when I worked there. And he's like, and I found out that's actually a true story. And I'm like, yeah. I'm sitting there like, oh no, like I've got the guy and he's about to call BS on like what I thought was well researched. But thank goodness for that research in the background of the story before I put the stuff in print. And then to find out like that the guy who can vet this story who was there is like, yeah, I fact checked you, and that's good. Totally validated all that work of citations and research and everything. So so kudos, Lisa, on all of that research you did.
Oh, thank you.
Jen, I'm curious for you, as we look at success metrics, like what were you looking for to define success before publication, and how has that changed for you over time?
Well, before publication, the idea of just getting it out, getting it done, getting it uploaded, doing, the mechanics of that was really intimidating. And getting it completed, getting to the point where I could say, you know what, I think you mentioned this earlier, Jeremy, here's the line in the sand. I'm done. It's time for this baby to be born. I cannot do any more. So for me, that was just it was such a joyous moment, because again, this was a childhood dream I was always a reader growing up. I went to school and studied, I loved art history and English literature. And so to be able to say I'm an author now was just such a joy. I don't have any notion of success having anything to do with money. I do have some author friends, so they clued me into that, on how that works. And the money's nice, don't get me wrong. But my biggest, I guess you would say, KPI now is I showed my 4 adult children that a childhood dream can come true and that I am not tied into corporate America, that being an entrepreneur means doing what you want to do, fulfilling your dreams. They're all between the ages of 20 and 27. And so they've seen their mom accomplish their dream. And it's been really cool to see how that has processed in their own lives. Um, the best success story being my oldest daughter having starting her own business from it. It gave her the courage to step out and say, you know what, if mom can do this, I can do this. And that to me is such a gift to give my kids. And that's a huge check on that box for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that they're able to see that and that you're able to check that box on a childhood dream. I mean, I have a Google Doc as those of you that know me wouldn't be surprised by, of things to do while I'm alive. I used to call it like things to do before I die, but I reframed that. And every once in a while I go back to that and realize like, oh yeah, like I got to check this one off, or oh, I want to add this item. And I came back to that document recently and realized I had on there to publish a book. And I was like, oh yeah, like I forgot that was an item on my list, and oh, that's now done, and it's nice to check that off. So, congrats, Jen, on being able to check that box on a
Thank
bucket
you.
list item. That's great.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's funny, this whole definition of success and how it can change, because it can. And I think it's a little rigid to think we've got to define success and then never course correct, right? Like it is okay to course correct and change our definition over time.
Oh yeah.
And for me, publishing the book was a nice idea, but really I think the idea initially was for that authority expertise component. And, it was never about necessarily making money from book sales. Lead gen was going to be an important piece of that. But I wasn't really looking at book sales as really this guiding metric at all. And as I learned more, one of the books I was reading was talking about this whole idea of like author seeding, and like getting this snowball rolling of having like a highly recommendable book. But in order for that snowball to happen, like there needs to be a critical base mass, like to think about that snowball getting bigger. And so getting the book in the hands of your ideal readers, right, in volume, has been an earlier metric of success, right? I also like to look at month over month and look at, our book sales growing, is our book royalties increasing. Those are important things. But also like, what are the real leads that come from that? What is the community that's being built around that? And those are some of the KPIs that I more so look at and see, because some of the other things are too soft to be a number. But at the end of the day, if you look at like why you wrote the book and what it's doing out there, you can start to measure those end outcomes from that. So yeah, I like that metric has changed over time. So super. Well, for our listeners, if you're curious, like where these books are, you can find all of our books as well as 50 other books that are all available during this Kindle flash sale. For a limited time through Thursday, they are at 99 cents, and those are all available. You can see I have a link here for you, kindleflashsale.com /Jeremy is like my link for that, but you'll find everyone's books there, and the links to buy them as well as more about those. And if you are an author and you are curious, what it's like to be part of this, like reach out to all of us. Like what I tell prospective authors all the time is the author community is a wonderful, warm, and welcoming community. And I'm continuously amazed at how giving and helpful and thoughtful other authors are, especially ones who have been there and done that. The thing that feels like a huge mountain or challenge for you has been easily overcome or overcome multiple times by many others around you. So surround yourself with wonderful fellow authors. They will help get you there and make the whole journey all the richer. So Lisa, Jen, or Joel, any closing words before we wrap?
Live your dream. Go for it.
Live your dreams and go for it. Love it, Lisa.
I'm going to say ditto, because that is, that was my theme on this book, right?
Love it, Jen.
I'll echo what you're saying about finding someone who's done it before. I mean, that's really what an author is. Somebody who's done it before. And as I remind the people that I work with, you don't have to do everything perfectly well. You just got to do it a little gooder than the next person.
Love it. That's great. And I'll close with sort of a similar vein of this community piece of it. I'm amazed at the folks I've reached out to on LinkedIn just with like a message and who respond on back. Next thing you know, chatting and building a real relationship with someone. And the relationships and friends and things that have come out of being part of these kinds of author communities are astounding. And I can't believe the kinds of people I get to message and chat with on a daily basis who are so accomplished and so successful and have done so much and learned so much that are just wonderful, warm humans. There to support you along the way. So excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate Lisa, Jen, and Joel, you guys being part of this author panel and part of this Kindle flash sale. And for those of you who are still watching on the live stream or the replay, this is a limited time to jump in and get a ton of great books. I've filled my bookshelf already. This is where I find out about great books, not just for myself, but that I recommend as I write up longer form reviews to recommend out to my audience a list of folks of books they could and should be reading and why I think so. And this is where I find out about so many of those. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with us. And with that, good night.